afterthought, it could be very different going into this series when you have to react to LGD as we go to pick and ban.
Yeah, I think the big thing here for Hacker is, as you're saying, like controlling River and trying to see if he can get a little bit of priority there for Xiao Xiaobao in the mid and in the bot side, because it felt like a lot of Hacker kind of getting active on the map relied on mid lane having some sort of control. And as we get into pick and ban here, that's what I'm going to be keeping my eyes on to see if we can get that control for Xiao Xiaobao in that mid lane.
In our jungle day, control seems to be the keyword coming through here. A reminder to everyone tuning in, 11.11 Hex Flash is disabled due to the earlier bug that happened with Set and the Leona, I believe. It was Mako anyway, if I've got the champion wrong. But I want to point
you're right. You're right. Yeah.
Was it? Oh, thank you. Tagda, this is already starting out swimmingly. I want to remind our audience that in the LPL right now, we have 3 champions with 100% presence. Rumble, Nocturne, and the final one is Renekton. So far, Dagda, I do not see a Renekton ban as UP have their final ban remaining.
Yeah, which actually might throw the question to LGD, like, what do you prioritize? Because Garvey definitely struggled in their last series, and when we got him onto the Renekton, he looked way better. And actually, I meant to pick it up, I believe, the MVP performance. So I think certainly for this, I'd like to see LGD prioritize the Renekton, but we do know how much they like that Ezreal, especially for Kramer in that bottom lane. We're already kind of hinting at it. So with the Renekton ban, I feel like LGD are going to go straight towards that Ezreal.
Yeah, well, who would have seen this coming, right? Ezreal, big question mark, but maybe instead for Shadow, give him jungle control. This would be a nice touch considering that for Kramer, looking at SMLZ, I mean, SMLZ has a really wide champion pool. He might not even be considering it as they get locked in.
Yeah, now, I mean, we did see Hacker go back towards things like the Lilia into this Udyr matchup, and I think he had a phenomenal performance. So I think if I'm Ultra Prime here, I might go back towards something like the Lilia. I can also look towards things, as we were talking about, like the Ezreal, that's been a big pick. Even if we're looking at like the Lee Sin just for the lanes as well, like there's a hell of a lot open. I think that's the biggest thing about this patch is there is so many different power picks that you're able to select in this rotation on red side.
So many great responses to what you see as those first couple of picks. Good responses here, starting with the Varus, would be pretty key, as the Ezreal is a natural other response, but Varus has just been that power pick that SMLZ in the past has been pretty great on, so no big surprise to see him pick it up here in Game 1. Then we return to LGD Dagda, and we just ask the same question again, right? Ezreal's been given over, what do you want to pair with it?
Yeah, so I mean, there's always the thought of, you know, picking up the Ezreal as we're talking about here. You could always go back towards the Lulu Cog, but it actually looks like we're going to see a bit of a different style. So Kramer going to take away the Kai'Sa. So Kai'Sa can do relatively well into this matchup, you know, in the later stages, but definitely levels 1 to 3. Varus does get the push and can set up nicely for Hacker to have that bottom side river control that we were kind of hinting at that we wanted Hacker to get. But when paired this Kai'Sa with the Nautilus, this is a dangerous combo at level 6, because obviously you got pretty much the point to click CC, short range Varus, you got the Killer Instinct to close that gap, and that's why we're seeing the Tam Kench here, just to try and keep this Varus safe for the bottom side.
Even if you hit 2 first in lane with a Hail of Blades, it's a dangerous 2v2. I like you bring up the 6 Dagda. I also laugh a little bit because Kramer not being allowed on the Ezreal is a definite possibility. Maybe he's been put in the corner for now, just sent on the Kai'Sa, but arguably maybe a harder role to play here on the AD Assassin. So as the bottom lane is secure with a standard Varus Tarm, now we need to look more at solo laners here. We see the Zoe already banned away against someone like Xie. What would you add to the compositions, and what are you looking for heading into the second phase?
So already for LGD, you're looking at a pretty short-range dive composition, so things like the Silas stand out to me. Maybe Ultra Prime want to try and get rid of this here. And Garvey as well in that top lane. Like, we're seeing a hell of a lot of bans towards kind of the bigger picks, but certainly like something like a Gnar for Garvey could do well. Jace still up and available. Wukong as well, I think would work spectacularly with this LGD composition. So these are kind of the picks that at least I'm keeping my eyes out for. Whereas on the opposite side for LGD, I think you can definitely see the options of a poke composition to be coming through if you want to like double down on this poke Varus, but you've got a hell of a lot of options. Like, you can even go back for Xiao Xiaobao towards the Orianna, and ZS as well. We kind of highlighted a lot of those top lane picks still up and available, even if you want to go towards the Gwen as well, but ZS is definitely being that weak side top laner, so I'd be surprised to see him go for that more carry oriented role.
Oh, I think it's just funny that you talk about them setting up poke comps. They're already banning away like 2 big key factors that add to that poke composition. One other element that could be added nicely though for UP is more engage potential and the ability to kind of jump on this dive from LGD. The volley bear gets locked in, most likely for Hacker, but remember, these are still flexes, Dagda. Lee Sin, Volibear can still go towards the lanes as, oh no, it's Season 11. LGD's like, you've left it open for us. And immediately on the other side, here we go.
I mean, we saw it at LEC yesterday where Season 11 can sometimes, ignore your 6,000 gold lead and just kill you anyway. So definitely, I think LGD, strong top, strong mid now. With the Garvey getting his hands on the Gwen, you're going to have that pick for Xie there as well with the Viego. And I think this is where you start to get a little bit worried as Ultra Prime. Now, we are going to see Xiao Xiaobao going back towards the Orianna, so certainly they are still looking towards this more teamfight orientated composition for Ultra Prime, with a lot of control coming through from the mid and AD carry ults. But I am a little bit worried because I know essentially when you get to that late game portion here as LGD, with Viego taking over, Gwen taking over, that's where they'll be able to shine.
And they can play sides so well, right? We know that Gwen, great DPS mage at this point in time, like scales extremely well, as we saw yesterday with Flandre 2. Even the Viego there, you get a couple of items on him and his ability to impact the back of the fight, to get towards people like the Varus if Tahm Kench is not nearby, disrupt the flow for a team like Ultra Prime. We look towards those solo laners of LGD, we look at a safe 3, but I think more importantly, Dagda, you pulled it out, the potential team fighting of Ultra Prime and what they can do with their ultimates, what they can do with those really great engage elements. It seems like a very fitting draft for game number 1 when we called it the Jungle Day here, and we have the Volibear going up against the Udyr. Pretty boring stuff, but we talked about them influencing the lanes, and these are two perfect champions to get the balls rolling exactly there.
Yeah, I definitely feel like if you're looking at Shadow, it will be looking towards those two solo laners, right? Because as you rightly point out, Hysterics, this is a composition that can play 1-3-1 incredibly well. Their team fighting can still be very good when we get to the 3-4 item point for picks like the Gwen. But the only issue that I'm seeing is that they're pretty heavily reliant on Baron. Because when you look towards the amount of wave clear that we see coming through from Ultra Prime with the Varus, the Orianna, I mean, hell, even the E from the Volibear, it becomes quite difficult to actually try and push in aggressively against these lanes if you're grouped up. So I think certainly for LGD, they'll be looking to try and get these solo lanes ahead in the early game, play towards those early Rift Heralds and use the strong skirmishing that they have in those two solo lanes, and then see if they can get to a point where they can threaten for Baron and they can threaten in these side
and then
lanes.
And show us Season 11 with great passion for LGD game number 1. They've snagged Gwen, they've snagged the Viego. Kramer's been put on the Kai'Sa duty, which, let's be honest, maybe it's a little bit more competitive as Garvey versus ZS up in the top lane. Garvey wasn't expecting that and kind of just lets him walk in for the Tempest. But Dagda solo lanes there for LGD, you explained so nicely. You've already talked about the team fighting for Ultra Prime. I'm really curious to watch where Hacker goes, especially since he's gone for press the attack. Now, we normally see Conqueror Volibear in the LPL. We've seen Predator a couple of times. PTA, I'm not sure. I haven't been paying that much attention to recent Volibear, but this is very aggressive rune set to be taking into the jungle skirmishes.
Yeah, and definitely something that can pay off in the style of game that LGD is going to be playing, right? Because you have incredibly short range when you look at the LGD lineup. So with the Volibear with press the attack, you don't need like the Predator to try and jump in on people, and you can actually try and burst someone out incredibly fast, especially when you look towards the burst potential from like an Orianna Shockwave, Lee Sin, hell, even the poke coming through from Varus. So definitely going to be looking to try and very quickly burst someone down when they try to go aggressive on towards Ultra Prime.
We'll see where he gets his first impact off on the map, as right now, roaming up towards the top side, clearing from bottom to top. Same clear path here from Shadow, but we know how fast the Udyr is, as he's on his Raptors, Wolves for Hacker. Xiao Xiaobao has a really nice push in the mid lane here as well. Range versus melee in the early levels, especially against Viego. This is where he suffers a lot, Dagda. It's rough, you have to get the gap close, you have to get the Spectral more, and even then, a lot of the time, walking up to the wave can be pretty taxing.
Yeah, looking at this top side though, you can already see that ZS being shoved in by Garvey. So even though we've got like the range discrepancy in mid, we're kind of struggling for ZS in the top lane if you're Ultra Prime. So might actually get Shadow able to contest on towards this Rift Scuttler, because you can have Garvey move down. It looks like the wave might potentially reset in mid here as well. So Shadow might actually have a lot more control over this top side than we were really expecting.
Yeah, he's clearing pretty fast for it. I mean, if that contest over Scuttle comes through, I'll be interested to watch the Scuttle, the Scuttle scuffle. There we go.
The Scuttle battle, buttle.
I don't know what a battle is, but it sounds very cute. As Shadow with a level advantage, Krugs hasn't been done for Hacker, and You called it so nicely. Garvey has the priority up at the top side, so it is the first scuttle for Shadow, while mid-gate turned on its head. Xie walks too far forward. Command attack. First blood for Shao Xiaobao.
And really nice job from Hacker there. So they go to look at the scuttle. They go, right, we can't get that. And Xie, he just takes the step too far forward. Should have gone the long way to get towards that scuttle to try and support Shadow, but ends up walking straight into Hacker, instantly flashes. And now Hacker, because there's no mid laner, he can get that bot lane scuttle alongside the pressure and bot. So nice win for Ultra Prime in the early stages.
After you saw the jungler in the river as well, Xie getting caught out there, that's really rough. Curious to see this replay, Dagda. You knew he was here.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he just thought that Hacker had gone to pat down towards the bottom side, thinking, okay, he's going to go for Scuttle, not thinking that he'd be in the bush, but just walking a bit too far forward and gets caught out. So nice job from Ultra Prime. Now we got Xiao Xiaobao, who's in a decent spot, and certainly in this matchup, I wouldn't be surprised to see him try and go towards some sort of early, like a cloth armor or something along these lines, just for if Xie ever tries to close that gap.
Yeah, I mean, in a bit of trouble at the very least. The first kill going over to the Oriana, safe laning phase was already there, and now you're in a position where Wave's pushing in a little bit here. Hits a turret, so should even out, but Xie stepping up, you can see already a bit of danger. And across the map here, Dagda, for UP, the only lane that's really suffering is the top side. You could argue jungle as well, being behind a couple of camps, but bot lane, the lane we haven't talked about, SMLZ and Xiaoxi, 5 CS ahead, doing so well in the poking battles here that Kramer's even going to have to take an early recall, and Mark's left on his lonesome because their poke is just huge, like this.
I'm curious to see if this signals a Dragon start for Ultra Prime, because there's actually a relatively big wave about to crash in mid. You now have control of bot. They could try and go over towards this early Dragon start to rack them up, because when we're already looking at, hey, look, Xiao Xiaobao already had control of mid, and he's going to continue that with the extra kill. SMLZ having control of bot, it feels like it's a great time to go for it.
Really is. It's up in the top side. Here's the gank instead. Shadow got onto ZS, and with the flash already burnt, Ignite down. Shadow picks up his first kill of the game thanks to Garvey.
And ZS was so upset with where that lane was positioned. It's really hard to try and shove it in against Garvey with the position that it's in. Garvey can trade incredibly effectively. The attack speed steroid that comes from his E means you're never trading effectively. And now Garvey again still gets to hold onto this wave, is completely free. And Hacker, after getting this dragon, will need to move up topside to try and make sure that ZS can crash that wave and reset it for himself.
Because it was a long time coming, wasn't it? We talked about it a little bit before. We mentioned that ZS, the wave, was actually resetting and pushing out against him. So really nice positioning from Garvey. Good wave control here. Now with the assist going over, he's 10 CS up, and even in that jungle matchup, Shadow's set up to succeed once again. Dagda, this is what we saw in the last series when LGD were going up against Rare Adam.
Oh,
Shadow
no.
was taking control, and of the solo lanes again, yet here he is.
Oh, ZS, I'm so sorry, buddy.
Doesn't have flash, teleports there. Okay, LGD pulled out the TP. Sonic Wave hasn't been used as of yet. Onto the Udyr, taking the engaged Shockwave there, pull Shadow back and sent all the way back up to hitting level 6. ZS picks up his first kill as Mark's already roamed on up here, and Garvey gets a return. He gets to stay in the lane while ZS doesn't. Maybe that's a bit more worth for LGD.
I agree. And I think a great roam from Mark to make that worth, because as you said, big wave going to be lost on the top side. ZS thought he had the help coming through from mid lane, but it just wasn't enough. And again, this is what we like to see from Mark. Generally just tends to leave Kramer by himself and starts to get roams off and make these plays work. And when you've got Garvey on towards this Gwen, he definitely appreciates any sort of early game help he can get to get to his item break points.
Watch it again,
you're going to see it in the replay here.
Level 6 was hit on the wave, Dagda.
Yeah, level 6 hit on the wave. You already had Xiao Xiaobao with his level 6. So a great combo there. You know, get the Shockwave to pull the Udyr back, making it an easy kick coming through for ZS to set up the kill. But as you were talking about, amazing roam coming through from Mark to try and bring that back for LGD.
I mean, it's something we know both these supports for, honestly. I mean, Xiaoxi against SMLZ. It feels like with this AD carry, you're definitely going to be changing your style, especially as a Tarm Kench, when you're going up against the Nautilus, who instinctively is always going to roam, and we know Mark for that especially. Again, a wave crashing in massively here, though, in the meantime. And SMLZ and Kramer stayed in the wave, where SMLZ has been dominating throughout. The CS advantage is right there on your screen, and Kramer's really struggling. It's good that Mark went to the top side, but bottom is definitely the weakness right now for LGD.
Yeah, and I think you've kind of seen both sides play towards those strengths, right? We said for LGD, play through solo laners, play through these strong skirmishers, and see if you can pick up things like the Rift Herald. But when you're looking at Ultra Prime, the push in mid, push in bot, they should be looking towards these dragons. Now, it looks like with the wave pushed in top and the roam that we've got from the Ultra Prime bot lane, Ultra Prime will actually pick up this Rift Herald as well. There's not going to be any contest coming through from LGD, and that's going to be really nice to try and either, you know, turn some of these lanes back in your favor when you're looking at the top side, or you can actually just churn a whole bunch of gold into SMLZ bot lane and work on the fact that you've already got this big advantage from your bottom lane.
Especially when look at what you're losing, absolutely nothing. LGD don't get a response anywhere. The bottom wave was actually resetting as well as SMLZ left, because he had that huge wave pushing into the turret. He was able to reset the next, and 20 CS stays the amount up in that bottom lane. Mid wave as well, they show, and LGD have to pay the respect. So I like this from Ultra Prime yet again, showing their strength in a cohesive team composition as LGD's Xie getting a bit more pressure back in the mid lane. Things are weighing out a bit more after Xiao Xiaobao was bullying him all of the early lane.
Yeah, it'll start to get a little bit easier now for Xie. He's got a couple of levels. He's going to be able to use that passive pretty effectively to lifesteal. This is why I'm saying I think an early Seekers could actually do a lot of work for Xiao Xiaobao. But I think now our big question is looking towards the next minute and a half, where Dragon is going to spawn once again. Hacker's on top side, but should be able to get a reset in. He still has this Rift Herald. They can put it down in mid, create that big priority that they want, and look to get that Mountain Dragon off spawn.
He's actually pinging towards the top side, so it could be a different lane to keep the momentum going as Garvey in a bit of trouble. There's the flash taken down here with the Sky Splitter Stormbringer into Garvey's harrowing miss. ZS in as well. The needlework does a lot of damage. The Sonic Wave execution, though, was just enough in the end, if only just enough.
I wasn't sure if that was actually going to be enough. It looked like when the Sonic Wave initially missed from ZS, that was going to be the play dead in the water, but Hacker manages to follow through, manages to keep that play there, and ZS able to pick himself up a second kill now in that lane. He's actually sitting with a 700 gold advantage, so despite the early work that had come through from LGD, it certainly looks like ZS has been able to turn this back around.
And it comes back to what we talked about in the Day of Junglers, Dagda. Hacker has been the one more proactive on this volley bear. Shadow has a farm lead at this point in the game, but after his earlier gank, after the mishap that came through, it feels like now for LGD's jungler, he is just trying to stay ahead of the curve while Hacker is constantly going to the lane that we've talked about in previous seasons. ZS was always the focus and honestly one of the weakest parts of Ultra Prime in the past, but he has improved quite a lot and now in this game set up to succeed with an early mythic item before anyone else.
And the big thing here for Hacker as well is that he is going towards that Divine Sunder. Press the attack of Divine Sunder. That's a hell of a lot of burst that can come out from this volley bear. So certainly when he gets that item, Hacker will be in great shape. Now though,
engage onto Xiaoxi. That's a time catch caught out. Depth charge as well. He flashes over the wall. Manages to escape for now. The harrowed path wasn't able to give enough movement speed for Xie to catch up. And Xiaoxi does get away burning the flash after it was no summoners from the side of LGD. So Dragon, thank you very much.
Yeah, a late reset coming through from SMLZ meant there wasn't a 5-man stack towards that river. So LGD, they find that quick pick, they push Xiaoxi back, and it means that then they can turn over towards the Dragon themselves. So nice job there as Xie trading very well against Xiao Xiaobao in this mid lane.
It's also nice when you see a comp working like expected, right? You know, the engage comes through from Mark, everyone dives in. You talked about in the pick and ban, I know you mentioned a lot about the 1-3-1, but at this point early in the game, there's still quite a lot of damage from the all-in of Xie, Shadow, Kramer, Mark with the engage as well. So nice to see LGD going for that, while Ultra Prime, their thought is Herald up towards the top lane. This means ZS is going to be so far ahead of the curve of Garvey's way.
Yeah, and you're going to see, obviously, with that turret going down now, it opens up ZS to start making plays around the map, and especially when you got someone like a Lee Sin, the mobility makes it so difficult to try and deal with as LGD for things like dives in the mid lane. You know, you can go in underneath the tower super effectively as this Lee Sin, kick someone back out, and be able to set up Ultra Prime super well. So now, for someone like Xie on this Viego, who doesn't have the best wave clear, it can be really difficult to try and hold off on this aggression that Ultra Prime can start exerting on the map.
Yeah, can't wait to see it, especially when this when ZS gets involved as well. There's going to be a lot of collateral damage taken. SMLZ picking up turret platings on the bottom side. In the meanwhile, though, this is going to be the second plate going down. Solo turret plating as well, with Xiaoxi starting to move between river And you can just see the work he's doing, Dagda. Look at the control wards, look at the vision set up towards this bottom side. As soon as Shadow walks out, as soon as he attempts to make an exhibit in that bottom lane, SMLZ and Xiaoxi are going to see him, and he's just going to be able to back away.
And that's a bit unfortunate, because as you kind of pointed out earlier on, Asterix, we haven't actually seen a huge amount from Shadow this game. Yes, he's managed to get the farm lead for himself, but actually getting into impact the lanes hasn't worked out. And you can see the gold lead on your screen is negligible. Like, it doesn't really matter right now. So while the lanes of Ultra Prime are getting ahead, and they're getting into position to come into the strong mid game where Lee Sin and this poke fires can pop off, you're still waiting a long time for LGD.
Orbit, is this the pick? Harrowed Path is going to lead Share over to the side. Hackers on him as well. They've caught him out with the control ward. He has to use the Heartbreak around. Shockwave whiffs though, but Shie still destroyed. SMLZ pokes him down, and he looked for the flank, but UP knew exactly what he was up to.
And when you look at LGD, they've been pushed down to the bottom side. You've got full control now for Ultra Prime in this mid lane, and when you've just lost turret plates, this could be a heap of damage onto that mid lane turret, if it not falling as well, thanks to that play.
The river runs red. Look at the vision now. Look at where Ultra Prime are as well. SMLZ and Xiaoxi pushing this out, and lethality virus isn't going to push turrets that fast, but it's still every little bit of damage helps, and that was really nice to watch from Ultra Prime. Dagda, they're 3,000 gold up, and it's been a couple of these plays, right? Punishing Garvey for overextending, punishing Shadow as well. We saw Shie a couple of times punished for being too risk-taking in that mid lane, or even around that blue buff just then. And UP have got their head on their shoulders this game. They've got a dragon as well, and we talked about this being the team fighting composition. In a couple of items' time, LGD, if the gold's still like this, it feels like it's going to be really hard for them to play through side lanes when UP group up.
And a large portion of this has been coming from Hacker. I mean, we highlighted at the start of the day, the jungle day, but certainly, for me, looking at Hacker back on OMG, he felt like he just had no pressure on the map early whatsoever, as LGD are going to take the Rift Shard top, but it just kind of was like, okay, well, Hacker's just going to farm. It's going to be very messy. If you happen to run into them, yes, they'll make a play. Same when we saw Hacker back on LNG, but now on Ultra Prime, we've seen him twice getting insanely involved in this early stages, setting up Ultra Prime for a lot of what they wanted to do. And now you can see that with the characters that they have in Xiao Xiaobao and SMLZ, this is something they can actually work with and grow towards becoming a much stronger squad.
You got yourself the Viego, Gwen, Kaiser that are going to really feel the sting from someone like SMLZ. The strong squad you mentioned. Turret's going to go down there. Xiao Xiaobao lets it fall. There was no localized gold, but still the gold goes to the rest of the team of LGD. And just taking down one of the structures when they're a composition that you mentioned, you know, wants to play through these sides. We want to see the Gwen in the side lane. We want to see what Xie does in sides as well. That's going to give him more space on the map, and you can see Xie already up there to catch the wave, push it forward, add pressure, and try and get the wave deep when Dragon's coming up in about 35 seconds, and we know both these teams are looking to contest.
Yeah, and you can see the faster resets already coming through from up as well. So you've got the Manamune completed there for SMLZ. Still waiting on the Predator's Claw, which is definitely a bigger spike for SMLZ. We actually usually see the Predator's Claw prioritized first just because the lethality and the AD does so much work with your arrows, but not going to get it this time around, as Garvey being shadowed by Shadow just to see if they can maybe pick off this Lee Sin before, but not quite able to get it happening right before this dragon spawns.
She is grouping up as well. Kramer's left by himself in the mid lane. Mark is going for the engage. He's lucky that didn't connect, because if it did, the rest of UP just collapse on him. But meanwhile, LGD have found Hacker. Half health is the jungler. Is that enough to start the dragon and make sure UP don't contest?
It looks like it might be Ultra Prime going to take a step back. They don't really want to push in here. It is Ocean Dragon though, so definitely valuable, as Hacker has managed to heal up just a smidge. But look at where ZS is. He's actually in a really good spot. If he's able to get onto some of these key carries, can kick them back into Ultra Prime to set things up. So LGD trying to respect that as the dragon has started.
And he has flash as well for the kick flash. Note that Xiao Xiaobao not without the flash for another 20 seconds, which won't be this fine. Dragon's being hit down pretty fiercely, as 3.5k is the number. ZS is joining his team as 2k comes in. Sky Splitter there. Mark starts to engage. It's secured by the side of LGD, but Hacker's still running after them. Chilling Smite locks down Marco, shields up, flashes away, Garvey's in, and the harrowing miss Disengager at least denying the damage. The Needlework as well, so much there. Stormbringer on top, but Garvey survives for so long. Kramer now ready to go in his Shockwave, pulls back the AD carry, but the kick from ZS, he goes back in with a Tempest, was so damn close, as well as SMLZ's poke. Man, ZS made the hero play, but LGD end up the 2-for-1.
A fight of inches in that engagement. You can see Ultra Prime were so damn close to taking them down, but very fancy footwork coming through from LGD. Some cooldowns coming in at just the right time keeps them up and safe. So LGD, despite the gold deficit, get the dragon and they get the team fight win.
Somehow, Dagda, on a knife's edge, quite literally there, SMLZ picked up the 1 kill. Note that so he will have his second item as soon as he backs away, but we'll have a look at this again because the 5v5, Hacker really wanted to start it off.
So the engage does come in, and it actually looks pretty good to start things off, but Garvey, this needlework keeps him alive so damn long. Tanks up essentially all 5 members, getting that needlework through everyone on Ultra Prime. But watch this, as the shockwave comes through, Shie gets his own Heartbreaker off, dodges away completely from that, and with that, he's able to tank up a whole bunch of this damage that's coming in. ZS isn't quite able to finish off the low health members in the back line, and as well, Xiao Xiaobao not having that cooldowns to finish off anyone on LGD. So an insanely close fight, but one that was well played by LGD.
Also, UP started walking away as soon as ZS got that Dragon's Rage onto 3 members, so at that point they had to turn around. They're already too far away, and for LGD, end up getting advantage. The gold shrinks just a little bit, but it's still a 2k lead here for Ultra Prime, Dagda. But I think the more important thing is that for LGD, a team that is running into Ocean Soul in 2 Dragons' time, I mean, they're feeling pretty happy they secured the objective, considering that now we're at 20 minutes of the game. Now Garvey has 1.5 items, 1.5 items for here for Shie. They are scaling up, and it is going to be easier and easier to put pressure on, insta-clear these waves, and play those angles that we talked about as a potential for LGD.
But also, oh, hang on.
Maybe this is one of them. The flash in, instant flash from Share, Spectral Maw, Shockwave, not available. And that's an easy kill going over to the Viego. UP's response, well, they're going to try and hit mid with 3 and get this mid turret down.
And they should be able to get this down, which honestly for Ultra Prime is going to make things a hell of a lot easier.
They're collapsing. It's a death charge. Again. Teleport in. Shadow doesn't have his flash, but he's running at them. Teleport in response from ZS, who safeguards away. Mark misses the dredge line there. Rather, it was a little bit short. And LGD are just going to back off. Teleports committed from both sides. From Garvey and Shie specifically there. Xiao Xiaobao will have his when he respawns.
So although you got the kill for LGD, they didn't get the tower, which I think would have been the bigger victory here for them. Because with that mid lane tower going down in favor of Ultra Prime, it becomes a lot more difficult for Shie to try and push up in these side lanes. Same when you look at Garvey on that top side of the map. And that's where LGD are trying to see if they can find their advantages. Because, oh, hang on, Ultra Prime.
Yeah, they've just pulled the trigger. They know that LGD were backing away. And Ultra Prime have been controlling vision for the whole time. You mentioned the teleports there from Garvey. Shie doesn't have his either. He's just lucky that he's nearby. They're collapsing. The Baron's already gone down. It's the engage from ZS, who's taken down Kramer. Killer Instinct there, looking for the cripple. Comes in and smacks him in the face. Kramer's down, Baron secured, now they're on top of the Gwen. Garvey running away with a hallowed miss, but everyone's there. Needlework at the ready, but Shockwave says no. And UP just come in so clean with the quick call.
That was insane. Ultra Prime, that was nuts. The fact that they are just on a dime, like, we know we can get this Baron. Garvey has no TP, he's on the bottom side. We have the stronger 5 unit right now, and they just burst it out insanely quickly, and they managed to get 2 picks off the back of it as well from great play from ZS, and also SMLZ just managed to barely clip Garvey with the chains of corruption. Now Ultra Prime, they're the ones that are in control. They can push down this mid lane, and they'll have this Baron buff for the next dragon, but this from ZS was gorgeous. Gets the Warthog to follow up on the kick, and then it's just able to chase Kramer down with that Sonic Wave resonating strike. But here as well, on the opposite side, Garvey, he had nowhere to go. Everyone from Ultra Prime had already collapsed, and this is the coordination that we wanted to see from Ultra Prime in their fights.
I just think it's great that ZS is taking initiative here on the Lee Sin as Abyssal Voyage is actually used. Xiaoxi has followed this up, Kramer's caught out yet again, and this is not a good look for the AD carry who started the season with about 6 misclicks, mispositions. Dagda, they got Baron, they got a 30-second timer on this AD carry. That's at least the inhibitor.
And Hacker's just tanking this up. 1 minion remained, but Hacker was like, hey, look, as long as this minion survives, we get the debuff on the tower. So we're able to take that down. Ultra Prime now get the inhibitor. They'll back off. Actually, ZS has already nicely started up this dragon. And now you're looking at LGD going, what's your plan here, guys? You don't have the scaling option in your arsenal yet. Garvey still needs to get towards his Zonya's Hourglass completed, a Morello Novacon, I'd imagine is going to be his 3rd item, and even then you're still only going to be kind of matching where Ultra Prime are at. Whereas when you look at Ultra Prime, you've already got your core components for SMLZ. Xiao Xiao Bao is going to be very quickly getting towards something like a Rabadon's Death Cap, which then makes him an absolute menace in these fights as well. So this is a great look for Ultra Prime right now.
Really is, and their sieging power is right here on the numbers. You can see 5 members grouping up. The poke keeps LGD at range, and the turret goes down. Shadow is looking for a flank here, Dagda, as ZS cancels the back. Not over a ward for now, but they are going to spot him out with a scrying ward at that. You can see Xie is disengaging. Shadow wants to find this pick, but without his mid laner there, I mean, they just have to let it go. UP have picked up so much for this Baron power play. 4,200 gold now more in the inventory. And it's just looking so strong for the team that all started with Hacker in the jungle, setting up ZS, and really good lane play from the rest.
Yeah, I've been really impressed with Ultra Prime these last couple of, well, last series and this series. So 2. Yep. The entire 2
only
series.
Played,
yeah, but I mean, look, for Xiao Xiao Bao, I was kind of holding off Judgment fully. I was curious to see how he was going to slot in, but his laning has been spectacular. His ability to react to what Hacker needs has been great. And I think then when we get towards team fights, that's really been where Xiao Xiao Bao has shined. His positioning is spectacular. His ability to get damage off as well, has with key ultimates, has been really on point. And then at SMLZ, he looks back in form. Like when I looked at SMLZ and OMG, he was getting caught out, his positioning wasn't really there, but now again we're seeing what SMLZ was known for and why he was considered such a strong AD carry in the LPL for such a long time.
I mean, he had a couple of down years. It started when he went on the Suiting Super Team, or quote-unquote Super Team, in 2019 spring, and was definitely downhill. I think the split-off has done him pretty well. His SMLZ 2-0-1 with Prowler's Call, 2.5 item virus that no one from LGD can face check at this point. When you're behind against the lethality virus and you don't have the time to build the items to really negate him, it feels really, really bad. Saying that, Shadow does have 2 armor items there, so he'll be probably the only one that's going to be fine. But Dagda, just look at them approaching the turret. LGD either need an engage or just have to run. Shadow's trying to do that, but nothing's stuck.
But this is what we said, the wave. Oh, there we go.
Flash, shockwave's there, but LGD have just walked into this. Nice needlework to pick up Xiao Xiao Bao. That's the flank that really matters coming through. Killer Instinct into the backline. It didn't start off too great, but now it's going to end beautifully as Ultra Prime walk into the west. That is LGD's base.
And all that you had to do was play it slow as Ultra Prime. I was about to point out that the wave clear on LGD is atrocious. That LGD had to find that flank, had to find the engage, and as long as you avoided it, you were fine. But you could see Ultra Prime tried to spread themselves thin. ZS going towards that mid lane, and that gives the opportunity for LGD with a fantastic hook coming through from Mark to shut down that play from Ultra Prime.
Because they walked into the shockwave first, Dagger, and I thought, okay, this is where game 1 ends. But Xie follows through and makes sure that this is going to work out in their favor.
Exactly. I mean, look at the position here, right? You've got ZS, who's completely out of the equation. So this is a 4 versus 5. And ZS has a good amount of the money that is around on Ultra Prime as well. But also, he's a big factor for the disengage. The Dragon Rage being able to buy space, so SMLZ can get his cooldowns coming in, Xiao Bao as well. Like, you didn't have that chance here, and it meant that LGD find that great engagement.
Means that the game goes on. Gold lead might be in favor of Ultra Prime here, excuse me, but 4k gold lead might mean less and less. Shadow's caught out though. Blastcone taken with Xiaoxi. The Sky Splitter's going to add some damage. Teleport there from LGD. Xiaoxi stuck in the pit, has to flash out. And it ends up being a favorable trade. Shadow didn't have to burn his summoner, but the Tahm Kench without the Flash Devour is a bit more danger for someone like SMLZ.
Garvey was TPing to the top side, so they were a little bit sketchy about how many members of LGD were going to show up, especially with SMLZ in base, but now you can see Baron is going to spawn 40 seconds until this dragon is up as well. Like, you've got multiple places on the map here that you can try and play for, but for LGD, without the waves in their favor, they can't really try and contest either of these. So as you can see, Ultra Prime pushing the wave. They can have ZS solo at something like the Dragon, while still keeping LGD interested in this Baron.
They just have to make sure they also have a look at where Garvey is, because the engage from Mark, they've given it to him again. Shouts out, Bell gets knocked up. Shadows in, Share into the backline, and Garvey is the Gwen, absorbing so much damage in that harrowed path. You can see Garvey moving away as well. First part of the needlework, Stormbringer to lock him down. Finally takes some damage, but Garvey has more ultimates to go. Jumps back in, snip time again, playing precariously. While in the backline, Kramer now jumping in, but Shie's getting low. LGD are playing on two fronts, and this is not what you'd call clean team fighting. Kramer trying to clean up what he can, but Dagda, I don't know what to say about that one.
So it didn't look too clean, but it was actually really well played by Ultra Prime in that fight, as Garvey now still needs to keep himself safe. But I will talk about as the replay comes in, but I want to talk about the appeal and the positioning that we're seeing coming in from the carries on Ultra Prime, because the big thing here for LGD is trying to close that gap and get onto these carries. But again, we're talking about ZS, the ability with the Dragon Rage to buy space in these fights, and you're going to see it here as Ultra Prime turn towards the Dragon, pick this up for themselves. But keep your eyes on SMLZ and just how good he was at spacing and having the team play to keep people off of him.
We'll have a look in a second. Dragon Soul coming up next here for Ultra Prime. We'll look again, because it was a very long team fight where they try and corner Garvey.
So watch ZS here, where he's actually already used the Dragon Kick to buy space. So this is the second engagement that we have. But SMLZ, Viego tries to jump on him. You get the Tam Kench to keep him safe. They all turn to deal with Kramer, who's also jumped onto him on that top side. So again, Shouts Out Bao and SMLZ are safe. Meanwhile, ZS is tearing asunder the back line for LGD. So it means that you've got nowhere to go for LGD, whereas you've got consistent shields and just the invulnerability being offered by Shousi on this Tam Kench to keep Ultra Prime's back lane safe.
It's a lane that Hacker focused in the early game, and ZS has had a lead pretty much all game long, so I'm glad it's been paying like dividends for Ultra Prime. A ZS level 15, 3 items strong here. A lot of armor in his tank as well. That's something that's going to deal with Shie Kramer quite well. Even Shadow, right? The base damage of Udyr. I think it's important to know, Dagda, that it's a 5k gold lead still for Ultra Prime, and now they're in a much better position than they were before. They've got Soul to lever alongside this Baron. If LGD go for one, then okay. Ultra Prime will get the other, and we know that they can't deal with the Baron. We know that you talked about the limited wave clear coming through from this composition. It's very short range, and LGD having to walk up to the wave is a nightmare against the Baron buff.
Yeah, especially if Ultra Prime are grouped up. But as we saw, you know, if ZS tries to leave and spread that Baron elsewhere, that's when it can become a bit dangerous. But Ultra Prime, they're perfectly happy with where they are right now. They're the ones with the poke. They're the ones that can actually try and keep people at bay. Although, as I say, that Shadow has found a sneaky flank.
Yeah, Shie as well, going to get the other side of it. Shadow's been targeted out. ZS is there. He'll be stunned up for now, and the graphic comes up on the bottom. Means we've got a team fight in the making. Maybe it's a little bit too early, but Garvey's going to be engaged on ZS without any energy. But Mark going into the backline, destroyed by Shouts Out Bell. What's a bit of a wombo in here as well. Watch Shie, watch Garvey taking care of ZS while Shoutsy's dead as well. Kramer cleaning up the rest. A triple on the side of SMLZ, but Ultra Prime have lost their 80 carry while TP comes through. ZS will be able to get out of there, but Kramer, Shadow, and Shie are still alive to start threatening the Baron.
Yeah, and as confusing as it is because it's Viego, it's a triple for Shie. This guy went nuts in that fight, and this was the difference again, where we're looking at the ability to buy space for the backline. They weren't able to do it in this fight. The people like Shousi and ZS weren't in a position to try and stop the onslaught from LGD. LGD are the ones that pick up the fight. They get the Baron, and now they can get control back on this map. They can start to create these longer lanes by getting down these towers. But watch, ZS goes in aggressive. Shousi tries to aggress onto the bottom side of the fight here. which is the go button for Shadow. Because once Xiaoxi is away from SMLC and Xiao Bao, that's when Mark and Shadow go in aggressive. They set up for Xie. The CC chain means that it's incredibly difficult for Xiaoxi to actually get onto the core carries. And as soon as Xiao Bao goes down, that's a whole heap of burst damage that now Xie has access to. He takes down so many different members and then turns his attention towards the rest of Ultra Prime that are still alive.
The new champions are confusing enough. The fact that it has the Varus champion portrait up for a triple kill is just that needs to be changed. Like I don't care. That needs to be changed. That's so confusing.
And the worst thing as well is when you look at him on the scoreboard and you're just like, wait, who are you? What do you actually? I want to know what your items are. I don't care who you're embodying right now. I need to know what the rest of the information is.
I thought SMLC, man, he died. How did he get a triple kill? That's impressive. There's not even 3 dead from LGD. So, yeah, it was another.
That's a real strong red buff.
That's right. Another chance of 200 years here in 2021. Xie 6-3-3. The man carrying the fight as we saw there. 3 items strong. Gwen at that point now as well with the Cosmic Drive, as Shadow's going to be running at them. But UP, they know the threat here. Xiaoxi has to flash away. He's been caught out, and Garvey tackles him down. The needed work comes on in, and after snipping a couple of people, it's now 30 seconds till the next dragon, and LGD are not slowing down.
And Shadow's been doing such a good job of finding these flanks consistently. Ultra Prime not keeping their vision control there to ward out as that hook.
Again, they've got the engage onto Zed as Shadow gets stunned in the backline. Xie, he's been spotted out though. LGD have abandoned him. He has to use the Heartbreaker, but he's way behind enemy line. Lucky the turret went down. Lucky Mark survives. Ultra Prime almost picking a bit off the back end as Garvey, that is about 100 years. He just set Gwen back about, 10, 11 days there. Ultra Prime getting a pick that they shouldn't have, and now Dragon might actually be theirs.
Yeah, I don't know what Garvey was thinking. He just had to hop out of there and instead goes in aggressive, gives his life, and Ultra Prime now, this is Soul. This is a huge boon to this team.
That was bad. There's nothing more to say than Garvey Y. When you had teleport, you could go back and heal and threaten Dagda, Ocean Soul to Ultra Prime. And Garvey is definitely getting the belt. That's all I'm saying.
LGD and E buttons, man. I mean, what is going on? Just go the opposite direction. Like, you can have the Arcane Shift go in, but can also go away. You can have the E from the Gwen go in, but also go away. But again, we're going to be looking at this. No Xiaoxi, but Ultra Prime with the tower do a good job of kiting back, making sure that they're keeping LGD at bay. And then here, I don't know what Garvey was thinking. Like, you can see everyone else is backed away. They don't want anything to deal with this. And the CC comes in and they just burst them down.
The skip and slash towards? Dude, he's emulating Kramer from the other day. I'm sorry to be harsh, but that's the truth of it. We've had multiple plays here out of LGD to start the split off. And mind you, this is their second series in the LPL 2021 Summer. Kramer's done it a couple of times. Garvey now does it. Ocean Soul's given away. And for this LGD comp, we talked about the strength in solo laners, Dagda. I'm glad to see the Oblivion Orb there to reduce some of the healing, but apart from that, we're not going to get too much. And Ultra Prime, the longer these fights go, the better it's going to feel for them to stay on in and eventually end this one out, if truth be told.
Yeah, and the big thing as well is like having the Ocean Soul makes it so much easier for guys like SMLZ, Xiao Bao to deal with the brunt of that initial engagement, right? And especially when Ultra Prime, as he talked about, are trying to kite back, extend these fights, you get so much value out of this Ocean Dragon. So I think the big thing here now is LGD, you gotta try and keep going for these flanks. Try and find the picks. Try and find the opportunity to get onto SMLZ, to burst out Xiao Bao, because Xiao Bao has now made it to his 3 items. He is insanely strong right now, especially for people like Kramer. He can potentially one-shot them if the fight goes his way.
And I love that they're happy to group up, right? It comes back to how you talked about it in the draft. They're at that point now. 3 items you already mentioned. 4 items with the Edge of Night on SMLZ. Makes it so hard for him to get hit by the Spectral Maw, the Udyr Stun. Even Garvey coming through and using the Tone of Visibilities on him.
The depth charge as well.
The depth charge is a big one. Thank you, Dagda. That's a huge one from Mark. Even the dredge line coming through. But Shadow, look at this flank right now. I mean, pings have been spotted. He was spotted. There's a ward there. So Shadow is trying to be big brain about this, but will it succeed?
Oh, they're going to just turn on him. Shadow now realizes this is a bad spot. Chains of Corruption goes wide, though, and that's a massive blessing for LGD.
It is. If Shadow was caught there, I fear the worst here as LGD maybe just gearing up to set themselves up for the Elder Dragon. Remember, Dagda the Baron up in 35 seconds as well, so options here for Ultra Prime to space this one out, considering that, yeah, they might not have the gold lead anymore, but they have the soul, they have control in this game. They are the favored at this point to win with all the outcomes we've seen, and it is up to LGD to change our minds and find the fights with angles. Garvey, Xie again, remember the all-in you talked about, the dive ability, Dagda. Haven't seen it bar one fight from LGD, and it's going to have to be a big one for them to win out this game.
You can see, though, from the inventory of LGD, they kind of realized that yeah, this is going to come down to one last fight. One big fight at Baron, one big fight at this Elder Dragon. You can see the Elixir of Sorcery, in Garvey's inventory. Like, this is where you're like, right, this is our all-out stand. We win or we go down with the ship.
Well, part of the crew, part of the ship. Garvey, level 17. No one's really sidelaning this game now. It's amazing seeing a Viego, a Gwen, people who can actually sidelane effectively, but no one's touching side waves bar pushing it, leaving it, not adding any pressure. And Ultra Prime like, okay, fine, waves are crashing in. We're just going to start the Baron. We have priority, we have full vision. LGD can't get near us.
They do need to be careful, though, because now they're split, and that's where LGD can pounce.
He's done a lot of damage onto Mark. Into the backline, the three-man depth charge. Needlework starts off. Meanwhile, Kramer's there. He's got a lot of damage as well. Numbers advantage created. Killer Instinct available. When does Kramer go into Shadow? Sets him up. Kramer into the backline. Onto SMLZ. He flushes forward. He's feeling himself. He's making up for going too far forward. Garvey doing the same. And LGD have caught Ultra Prime by surprise.
And all that Ultra Prime had to do was stay together. Buddy system is the way forward, but they don't go for it. They split up, and LGD realize that now they have the opportunity to collapse ZS, though, on the run. But with Garvey and Xie keeping him in check, he will go down. Although, may not. Oh, they're TPing. They're just looking to end.
They want it, Dagda. Look at the death timers, though. Is it enough? Hacker, 15 seconds, 20 seconds on SMLZ, and Xiaoxi. I don't think they can end the game here, Dagda, but have been proven wrong many different times. Needlework's there first. They're trying to dive Xiaoxi out Bao. He's buying time with the Zhonya's here. The stopwatch ends up, and LGD take him down. Hacker's now alive, but SMLZ and Xiaoxi 5 seconds away. Stormbringer there. Hacker's still trying to delay, but he's dead as well. Volibear stolen by Xie as the first next turret goes down. Xiaoxi and SMLZ on their last defense, but it's way too late. LGD from the brink of despair bring a game 1 win.
Somehow, LGD managed to bring that game back, and again, phenomenal engages coming through from Mark. Xie consistently in a position to follow up, and they're just able to get onto the key carries of Ultra Prime time after time, and that last fight, they bring it all to fruition.
I mean, what more to say about that game 1? That there are a lot of fights we thought would be bringing it to fruition, bringing it to the end of the game. Ultra Prime looked like the team with Ocean Soul. Isn't it ironic that LG won against a team that got Ocean Soul when days ago they actually lost a game after acquiring Ocean Soul after Kramer, you know what? So there's a lot of fun with LGD games that we're discovering, but I don't think anyone thought that was going to end the way it expected. LGD 5v5ing and picking those angles great again.
But again, like, we're seeing that Ultra Prime worked best when they were all as this 5-man group, right? Where ZS was able to buy space, Xiaoxi was doing a great job of keeping the likes of SMZ and Xiao Bao safe. But the second they split up and you end up seeing Hacker and Xiao Bao go for the Baron, that's when LGD compounds, because you've got incredible speed coming through from Shadow. You got Mark who's able to get these almost guaranteed engages off with his kit. So they end up in these situations where you can't actually fight in the manner that you want to, and then LGD are able to get Xie into position. Like, Xie's flanks in this game, the fact that you could so consistently get into a position with the Heartbreaker was absolutely insane.
Yeah, it was the early game that shocked me the most for Xie, where he was a bit of a slow starter. Getting caught out for the Volibear, gank mid was kind of inexcusable after we saw he walked over a ward. The junglers faced off against each other, and I thought, well, Shier's going to have an off game, but he really rolled into it. We saw the back end of fights where the Viego was getting his resets, where more likely SMLZ was pushing forward a little bit, and Xiaoxi had to react so quickly, but couldn't do so. There's a lot to discover in this game, Dagda, and I think I want to highlight one thing is that in our jungle day, junglers were very impactful so far in game number 1. I mean, Shadow towards the mid to late game, Hacker in the early game was so influential. You can see the damage graph there. He sets that up, ZS up for success, but the way that last fight went, I mean, it was just a slap on the wrist saying, well, apparently it wasn't enough.
Yeah, and I think as well, like, the ideas from Shadow to consistently find these creative moves to get the flank that you want, right? Because it's very easy to just try and go, yeah, well, you know, he's an Udyr, he runs at you, but like his actual positioning and understanding of, you know, where are Ultra Prime going to be positioned? How can I try and best set up my my team to actually get the engages that we want? Like, disrupt that front to back that Ultra Prime are looking for. But he did a phenomenal job. He set up incredibly well for Xie and Kramer. And hell, I mean, you can even see Garvey. This is why Gwen is so highly prioritized. Like, the amount of damage that this Gwen can turn out, even from a range with needlework, is absolutely insane.
Yeah, even though Garvey does lose some brownie points because of what we saw mid-Dagda, I think you're right. You know, the damage output is just insane. When you get towards those 3 items, and it's also a discussion that we can have at some point talking about the itemization, because LPL Gwens have not been building Nash's Tooth. They just haven't. LEC, LCS, we know that it's always that second item. Nash is just so good on this champion, but they play it very differently here. It feels like more the team fighting Gwen, right? That you can buy time, Zhonya's Hourglass. You can really reposition as well with your skip and slash after the cooldown of the Zhonya's. You know, the Harrowed Path, the Harrowing Mist, the Hallowed Mist. Viego and Gwen should not have been made at the same time.
It's the reckoning. It's all thematic.
There's so much mist between these champions. I have to have 2 tabs up at the same time. Hallowed Mist and then Harrowed Path is Viego's.
Just wait for the one with Senna as well, and then you get the other mist that comes in as well.
Because, you know, Viego has mist corpses or wraiths as well that he possesses. I don't know. There's a lot going on in the spooky mist these days. Ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna have a break. LGD with a 1-0 against Ultra Prime, despite the Ocean Soul yet again here in the LPL. We're full of surprises, and I'm sure there'll be another one waiting for you after the break.